Could we chant Om together 3 times? Would that be? So for the practice, we can exhale together like this from the abdomen. And then a deep inhale into the belly. And then Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Namah Shivaya, good morning. Oh, sorry, together. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Oh, please forgive me. We must have this. Om, good morning. Good morning. Morning. So bright. And it's wonderful to be with you this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to join. Such a bright community, a beautiful community, and full of grace, full of light, beautiful. So I've been asked already a couple of times this morning, who are you, or something like this. And I get asked the question a lot. We all do, don't we? We all do. And different answers will come, but primarily the answer that will come, other than silence, which would be closer to the mark, is a pilgrim. And so the talk, I was asked for a title for the talk this morning, and we said a pilgrim's perspective on life, something like this. And so, peace pilgrim. And I was asked, or from my perspective, told to walk pilgrimage as a part of the path, spiritual path. And I did. I walked for about 2.5 years. I had, in fact, 9 years ago in May, I was walking through Michigan, and I walked through Michigan for a month, a full month, kind of like a ping pong ball, back and forth, back and forth. I never got up to the northern part by foot. Peace Pilgrim was asked who you are, and the answer she always gave was, I'm a pilgrim. And she would say, a pilgrimage is either to a place or for a thing, which would be so. And some of us, I think, have heard of the Camino del Santiago pilgrimage, where it's to a place. In fact, one of our dear family is just leaving an airport in New England right now, flying off to Camino to take 3 weeks there. And so, well known. Peace Pilgrim would say, I walk for a thing, and the thing is peace. And she had dedicated 27 years to this, and it was really the culmination of her surrender, which had happened 15 years prior, and the path that she was given. And so I said I was asked to walk, not 27 years, although there was a point at which I realized maybe yes, who knows? I had thought it would last 1 year. But I kept asking for what was next, and no answer came. And I learned, and I'll share, no answer is an answer. Because when you ask, you will receive an answer, but sometimes the answer will be silence. And so we continued, and that got me into Michigan, and really the connection here came from that time. I continue these days to come back to Michigan. But I would share this also, that a pilgrimage is to a place, and in a way that we're going to a place. And there's this reading this morning that I'd love to offer. It's from Swami Chidananda. Swami Chidananda is considered by many to be a great saint, and certainly here I would agree with this. And this is from Daily Swadhyaya, Daily Inspiration. This would have come from one of his talks in Rishikesh one morning. And he shares this, which is perfect for the theme. So he said, we have to include. And the title of this is Keep Moving Towards the Destination. And so in the spirit of pilgrimage as well, you'll see. You are a traveler, and the most important thing is reaching the destination. You have not come upon this earth plane to remain here forever. It is a brief sojourn in a plane of existence. You do not belong here, for you are the unborn, eternal Spirit divine. You have to reach a destination, and you cannot afford to sleep by the wayside. Life is the way, and the goal is God. The goal is your supreme welfare, not temporary satisfaction. You have to be on the way with alertness and vigilance, carefully avoiding being drawn out of the way into trivialities, into pleasure hunting. Those who hunt for pleasure do not know that it is they who are being hunted. They have become prey to the power of Maya, losing themselves in the byways. No matter how spectacular these byways may look, you lose your way. All these things are diversions. To be on the way and to keep moving upon the way is life. Everything else is spiritual death. Even if you pile up name, fame, applause, recognition, and the wealth of the whole world, you live in spiritual poverty if you do not keep to the way and move towards the destination. Never mistake these wayside trivialities to be the way. Those who are still in ignorance, caught in avidya, who are bound within the shackles of desire, craving, greed, and the sense of identification with the body, go after it and weep bitterly. They have missed the way. The living of life in the right and proper manner constitutes the way. All the other things are traps. They are petty diversions. The essence of life is not to go after pleasant sense satisfactions. They do not constitute the essence of life. They are mere frills. Beware, be cautious, and keep yourself in a state of wakefulness so that you are not diverted. That is the great thing needful, for life is short and time is fleeting. Therefore, we have to be up and doing, moving straight towards the great goal, attaining which one becomes supremely blessed. May Gurudev's grace enable you to keep yourself in a state of constant wakefulness and awareness. This is life, to keep yourself always upon the path and moving towards the great goal and destination. And we can say the destination is to who we really are, like this, to who we really are. We had a silent retreat this past weekend, last weekend, at Triple Crane Retreat Center, not too far from here, Chelsea. In fact, it was dear Trevor Eller, some call him Chaitanya, some call him, who I had met, connected to pilgrimage, connected to the walk through Michigan that had guided me to Triple Crane and suggested me here as well. And so, such a dear soul. Swamiji starts this inspiration with a reminder of who we are. And to be honest, what we learn here is that nothing else will do. Nothing else will do. We're after happiness here. All of us are, each of us are. Not just a little bit. Supreme blessedness. And nothing else will do. And we won't stop until we find it. There's no issue with seeking happiness. There's no problem with seeking happiness. The only issue we ever encounter is we look in the wrong place. That's the only issue. It's the only issue. There's a little Indian story about a seamstress, and the short version of the story is she's in her apartment sewing a garment, and she drops the needle, and it's India, so it's the only needle she has. And a little while later, a Samaritan comes along the street and sees her on the street, down on her hands and knees, looking for something. And so he says, "Can I help you?" She says, "Yes, please. You could help me to find my needle." And he asks this question. He says, "Great, where did you leave it?" And she says, "You got it, in the apartment." "Why are you out here looking for it?" "Because it's dark in there, and here it's light." And so it's like this for each of us. And each of us coming here today, each of us know where we're going. In fact, we may forget. We may forget. But truth be told, we know. We know that we will not find what we're looking for in worldly ways. We know that it is the coming together in satsang and gathering and reminding each other, as Ram Dass said, in walking each other home intentionally so to the place where we can do, where we can support each other on the path. But the path indeed is why we came. It is about remembering and being who we are. And not something other than this. It's not something out there. It's what's here. One of my dear teachers, Swami Sankarananda, I have, through grace, been able to join him for a little over a year in India and be at his feet. And he would say this very regularly. He would say that in order to enjoy the world, treat it like a banana. Peel it first. Get to the essence. Get to the essence, the center of it. And the center of it is what we call God. The essence of it. You know, in Advaita Vedanta, which is the school that we participate and support, if we ask about philosophy, non-dual, pointing to a non-dual reality, which means I and the Lord are actually one. That I and the Lord are actually one. And I'm going to have to peel away the layers in order to get there, but it's the truth. In Advaita Vedanta, in the Upanishads, in the many of the Bhagavad Gita interpretations, which is of the Upanishads, it is said that the capital S self and God, G-O-D, are identical. In fact, they're interchangeable. And we see them used interchangeably. The word self, but with a capital S, meaning the real essential nature, and God that we seek are one and the same. And this brings meaning to this song, "Be still and know that I am God." It's a very funny one because we can hear it over and over and over again. I was repeating it in the mind when I was walking pilgrimage, the first year of pilgrimage. Mostly I was chanting the mantra, and the mantra I was given, Om Namo Narayanaya, which is a peace mantra. Because other thoughts might want to come, and I was doing my best to keep the mind focused on the divine. So when people ask about practice, I will always recommend repeating the name of the Lord, because it occupies the mind and gets the mind out of the way. In the same way that coming together here, the energy that we feel in this space, we feel because it's who you are. And in coming together here in community in this way, we're greeting the essence in each of us, and we're given practices, the Namaste practice, for example, to greet that essence in each of us. And the mind becomes occupied in a beautiful divine way and becomes still. I remember the moment at which I was repeating this, "Be still and know that I am God," while I was walking pilgrimage. I was somewhere in Pennsylvania. I had started out in Pasadena, California, walking from west to east. I was somewhere in Pennsylvania, and I repeated it, and I started laughing. Ah, I get it. So I would say, stick with it. Because I am not these limited thoughts. I am not this clothing that I wear. I am not this body, although it's a tiny part of me. But I am not it. I'm not limited to it. I'm not limited in any way. Truly, it's so. I'm experiencing all of this, including the thoughts, the desires, the feelings, all of those that are in this limited shell. My dear Peace Pilgrim would say, when someone would ask, how old are you? She would laugh. And she would say, oh, I'm so grateful not to have to count anymore. That was painful. And she would say, I am not the body. The body is the clay shell. I am that which animates it. And in saying so, we don't say it to denigrate the body, because the body is a temple. But it's not my temple as an individual. It is the Lord's temple. And I came here into this body in order to work out salvation. What is salvation? Who am I? There's a beautiful little story we shared Saturday night in our retreat. It's a children's story. It's called The Little Soul in the Sun. And somebody here has read it? Oh, beautiful. So then you know the point. There are two quotables in here, but one is that the little soul comes to God and says, and he's very excited, and he says, I know who I am, I know who I am, I know who I am. Really, who? The light. And now I want to be it. And through the discussion, at some point, God says, remember, I've sent you nothing but angels. That's a good quote for us, practically speaking, and to relate to. It's easy here. We look around, we see angels. It's harder when we get outside, isn't it? And that's where the practice is, because the angels are everywhere here. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's very hard. That's where sadhana is. That's where spiritual practice is. It's not about getting away from the ones that don't look like angels. It's about seeing the angel in everyone. It's about seeing the angel in everyone, in every situation that we're placed in. And so we could say, as the little soul and God in the conversation, to know who we are and to be who we are. This is the goal of life. We put this forward just as an offering. In this way, it's so simple. It doesn't have any baggage with it. Whatever we do, it's fine. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's not an issue. There are absolutely ways that we can be more mindful, more present, more forgiving, more compassionate, et cetera, and these are all practices that we must engage in. But who we are really is more than enough. And getting to this place is the purpose of spiritual life. It's not, it doesn't have a limited purpose. It has benefits that are limited. You know, we might feel more vital in life. We might feel more balanced. We might feel that we can get through difficult times more easily like this. So these are benefits, but ultimately, we really wish to go all the way. We wish to go all the way. We don't want to get stuck at belief. We want to know. Beliefs can be part of the baggage for us, you know. We want to know. We want to get to the place of knowing, deep knowing. I'd like to share just two more inspirations, and then we'll have perhaps open mic time and give you the opportunity to ask something as well. But these are two inspirations. The first one is from Peace Pilgrim, and these are short. She speaks of this relationship, and she uses the word God, not capital S self, but she also knows that they're interchangeable. She says there is a power greater than ourselves which manifests itself within us as well as everywhere else in the universe. This I call God. Do you know what it is to know God, to have God's constant guidance, a constant awareness of God's presence? To know God is to reflect love towards all people and all creations. To know God is to feel peace within a calmness, a serenity, an unshakableness, which enables you to face any situation. To know God is to be so filled with joy that it bubbles over and goes forth to bless the world. Just some beautiful way to touch what is the goal here. It's to know God in yourself, which is identical. To drop the identity as this limited entity and to know who I am and to be it. It would be said, seek ye first the kingdom and all of this shall be added. And it's truly so. From this perspective, we can share. We remember all we actually wanted was to be happy. Everything we were doing in order to be happy got in the way of being happy, in fact. And we learned to laugh at ourselves. Because it's true. Whatever we do in order to be happy will get in the way of being who we are, who and what we are. And last, I'd just like to share these 4 points related to path. So deeply inspiring. We keep this tattooed, as it were, here. This is from one of the principal disciples of Paramahansa Yogananda, Sri Yanamata. 4 points as guidance for us on path. We could say practice, but like this: see nothing, look at nothing but your goal ever shining before you. Don't forget, for you, what is purpose of life. Don't lose hope in it. Don't stop. Keep it shining before you. If you take what we call birth and death out of the picture, you're immortal. You are immortal. You are not this body. The body dies. You don't. I would say we even have proof in this modern time with all the near-death stories that are about. So you are immortal. If you take this illusion of birth and death away, what you're left with is infinite life. And this particular birth, this particular experience of earth life, this human experience, is a tiny bit. It's so important, but it's a tiny bit. Whatever happens here to us, it's okay, it happened. But let us not forget the goal. And if we don't forget the goal and there's no birth, no death, then you're bound to get there, aren't you? That's the truth. So that first point that she makes is really the most important. Number 2, the things that happened to us do not matter. What we become through them does. Number 3, each day, accept everything is coming to you from God. If we can do that, the entire weight is lifted and fear goes away. As a practice. And at night, give everything back into his hands. And that's the release. We can say the most important moments in the day, and we heard a little story when I was coming in the door about someone who talked about first thing in the morning. We can say the most important moments, if we could say that, are first, when we come into waking state and we're reassembling ourselves from deep sleep or dreams, trying to figure out who we are in those first few moments. That's the most important, is to make the connection to who I really am in these moments, to do it as deeply as we possibly can, and that will get us on the right arc for the day, the most beneficial arc for the day. And then at the end of the day is to intentionally reconnect, which is, however we do. I could say something like this, and this would be a quote: "Dear Lord, thank you. I did my best today to keep to what I had committed. I did pretty well in these areas. I didn't do so well in these. Please forgive me. Please accept all of it as an offering." And then sleep comes like a baby. Like this. Okay, so in the immortal words of Tiny Tim sitting at the Cratchit table, as the ghost of Christmas Present is there with Scrooge, and he sits at the table, he sets down his crutch, and he says, "God bless us, everyone. May God bless us, everyone." Thank you.